Good morning, students. We will continue with the chapter Metals and Non-Metals. Set up an electrical circuit as shown below. Place a metal to be tested in the circuit between terminal A and B as shown. Does a bulb glow? What does this indicate? We know metals are good conductor of heat and electricity. Now there is a switch and a bulb. So you're placing the metal between these two wires. When you switch it on, if the bulb is glowing, it means that particular material that you have placed between the two wires, it is a good conductor of electricity. If it was a bad conductor of electricity, then the bulb wouldn't have glowed. So this is one of the characteristic of metal. Now activity 3.7, collect samples of carbon, that is coal, graphite and sulfur and iodine. Record your observation. Now one glance at this, we can easily tell these are all non-metals. So here what will be your observation? You can write down the properties of non-metals over here. For example, first you can start off with the symbol and type of surface. Rough. Iodine is the only non-metal that is shiny in nature. Whereas hardness, we know metals are really hard. But whereas the non-metals are not so very hard. So their hardness is moderate. Whereas iodine, it is not hard. Malleability and ductility, they are not malleable nor they are ductile. As well as heat, the conduction of heat and electricity is nil, and even sonority, they do not produce sound on beating. So this is about the activity 3.7. Next, moving on to the activity 3.8. Take a magnesium ribbon and some sulfur powder. Now burn the magnesium ribbon. We know magnesium reacts with oxygen, so it forms magnesium oxide. So the magnesium ribbon has a coating of magnesium oxide. So you're burning that ribbon, collect the ashes formed and then dissolve in water. What will happen? The magnesium oxide, when dissolved in water, forms magnesium hydroxide. Now you take a litmus paper and check whether it is acidic or basic. What do you think magnesium hydroxide will be? Do you think will it be acidic or basic? So definitely it is going to be basic. So magnesium, when it reacts with oxygen, it forms magnesium oxide, and when you dissolve it in water, it forms magnesium hydroxide, and it is basic in nature. Now burn sulfur powder. Place a test tube over the burning sulfur to collect the fumes produced. So we are collecting the fumes that is obtained while burning sulfur. Then add some water to the above test tube and shake it. Test the solution with the blue and red litmus paper. Is the product formed on burning sulfuric acid, sulfur, on burning sulfur, is it acidic or basic? It is acidic in nature. Sulfur, when it comes in contact with oxygen, it forms sulfur dioxide, and when it is dissolved in water, it forms H2SO4. Okay, sulfuric acid, and it is acidic in nature. Hold any of the samples taken above with a pair of tongues and try burning over a flame. Repeat with other metal samples. So you're taking few metal samples and you're carrying out certain steps to see what is the observation and what is the resultant of it. Collect the product if formed. List the products and metal surfaces. Cool down. Let's see what are the things that we need to record while performing the experiment. Which metal burns easily? Now, in general, if you look at the metals, usually we see that group 1 are alkaline metals, group 2 is alkaline earth metals. So it is alkaline metals and alkaline earth metals that burn easily. Okay, sodium and potassium are highly reactive. Magnesium also burns brilliantly. So usually if you look at the periodic table, we see that alkaline metals and alkaline earth metals, they come under this category. What flame color did you observe when the metal burnt? See here, when the metals are burnt, they give varied color. It might give orange color, it might give blue color, or it might give green color. It depends upon the metal that is burnt. How does the metal surface appear after burning? It appears blackish in color because of the deposition of carbon. Now, when you arrange the metals in the decreasing order of their reactivity towards oxygen, this is what you obtain. See, the products obtained after burning the metal, are they soluble in water? See, only sodium oxide is soluble in water. If you take oxides of aluminium, copper, iron, lead, magnesium, zinc, they are not at all soluble in water. Next activity. So this I have given you equations regarding this particular activity. I'll be just going through this activity. Put small pieces of the sample separately in a beaker half filled with cold water. So in a beaker you're filling it with cold water, half filled with cold water, and then you are adding small pieces of the samples given. Now, which metals reacted with cold water? Arrange them in the increasing of their reactivity series with cold water. Reactivity with cold water. So, in this activity, okay, sodium, potassium and calcium are the metals which reacted with cold water. Their increasing order of reactivity with cold water is this. Did any metal produce fire on water? Definitely sodium and potassium, that is highly reactive, produces fire. Does any metal start floating after some time? Yes, calcium, because hydrogen gas is released. As a hydrogen gas is light, it comes up, so the calcium sticks to the surface. Put the metals that did not react with hot water, arrange the apparatus as shown in figure and observe the reaction with steam. So we need to know how metals react with steam. Here we cannot add in directly water. Okay, we want steam. So what do? We are taking a glass wool soaked in water, and when you heat it, it is getting converted to steam, and the steam is reacting with the metal sample. And during the reaction, hydrogen gas is being liberated. So, which metals did not react even with steam? Copper, lead, silver and gold did not react with water or steam at all. So, even when you look at the reactivity series, these are least reactive metals. Arrange the metals in the decreasing order of the reactivity with water. So, this is the series what we obtain. Next, moving on to anodizing. The process, again this is an important question for 1 or 2 mark. It is a process of forming oxide layer on the surface of a metal is called anodizing. So on the surface of the metal, an oxide layer is being formed. That is nothing but anodizing. Example, aluminium forms an oxide layer on its surface when exposed to air. So when an oxide layer is formed, the reaction decreases. It does not participate, it does not react with the moisture present in the air. It is a non-penetrating layer which protects it from corrosion. The layer can be made more thick with the help of anodizing. Anodizing is a process by means of which we are on a metal, we are applying an oxide layer, or an oxide layer is, we see to that an oxide layer is formed on the metal. It is a process in which clean aluminium is taken as anode. As an anode, aluminium is taken and dilute H2SO4 acts as an electrolyte. When electric current is passed, oxygen gas is liberated, which reacts with aluminium to form a layer of aluminium oxide. So, Here what are we taking as an electrolyte? It is sulfuric acid. So when you're passing electric current, oxygen is liberated. Then which reacts with the aluminium? The oxygen which is released reacts with aluminium to form aluminium oxide. This is how the anodizing process is done.